Dark Horse and got my first gig. And I was still in college. I don't know how I found the time. Yeah, senior in college, finishing up my college career, doing illustrations for the local newspaper, and then got this short story for Dark Horse, did that one, and then after that I got my second short story for Dark Horse Presents called Breath of Fresh Air. And from those two stories I got jobs at DC and then Marvel and Image. And
who was your editor at Dark Horse?
At the time, I feel like
that's the person that's going to say, yeah,
right,
he's hireable.
Yeah, their name is escaping me. Okay. I remember talking to Randy Stradley, but I'm forgetting the name of the editor at the time.
Right.
What about you, Tim?
First work, published work?
First and second, because I think I know what the first is, but I have no idea what the second is.
What do you think is the first?
Is the first Challengers of the Unknown, or is that later? Oh, okay. I'm completely wrong.
It was actually quite a bit before that. I started out as an inker because I didn't think I'd taken John Buscema's workshop in 1977, and came away from it thinking I'm never going to get storytelling, but I thought I could ink, and so I kind of just presented myself that way. And my first job was inking Phil Folio on Myth Adventures, magazine size, and I remember I had the first job I had a week to do 27 pages. Double side.
Myth Adventures.
And I did not know this until it appeared on my doorstep. And I had another job at the time. So it was not ideal, but I did it. And so that wasn't much of a job, but I did about 10 issues of that. And then I did something called Thieves World, the same publisher.
Oh, okay, so they're both based on Robert Asprin books, then?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Very good. And then I met Matt Wagner and Diana Schutz at San Diego in about 1988, 89, something like that. And actually Barbara Kiesel there as well. And that became my connection with Jeff, but before that I worked for Dark Horse, for Kimiko, which became, or didn't become, but Matt started at Kimiko, and Diana was at Kimiko. And I did stories like Billy 99, things like that. So Challengers came after all that.
Oh, okay. So the run on Grendel you did was before Challengers?
Yeah.
Okay. Go to the audience. Where haven't I grabbed from? You and the bandana.
What was the weirdest commission you ever got?
We already did that one.
I thought it was the most memorable.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, if you guys want to answer that, the weirdest commission, if you feel comfortable. I've heard horror stories.
I don't usually take them, to be honest. But trying to think about the weirdest. Actually, in Toronto, last time I was here.
Was it the glue guy?
I didn't do it. No, I was a topless guy. And he asked for an embrace between Mary Jane and Gwen, topless. And luckily somebody saved me from saying yes.
I think the weirdest might have been a friend of mine wanted a piece with Princess Leia and Yoda was like humping her leg.
like a chihuahua or a little dog.
But she's a friend of mine, and it was for her birthday, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, Yoda.
Go with you right in the back there. Yep, you. The little guy at the back there wants to know.
Favorite drawing that we
Personal
did?
favorite drawing that you've done so far.
Andrew? You understand why that might be a hard question, right?
Probably, I would have to say that, I mean, my favorites are probably just paintings that I've done for myself that are not even related to comics at all, but just to paint, just for the pure enjoyment of painting, more like a fine art thing. So that's probably what I would say that I enjoy the most, just because it's the most freeing. I'm not trying to please anybody except myself.
No.
Very selfish endeavor.
Is that published?
I've got some self-published little books called Tim Paintings. Don't have any here, sadly, but
Okay, I don't think I've seen it.
I'll have to get you one.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Well, I'm going to try not to say personal things. I mean, I respect that because, it's probably true for me too. But there's no way guys are going to know what they are. Things for girlfriends or family or something like that.
Okay. So
Yeah. I can tell you that the favorite single issue that I've done is Solo for DC. How many people know that book? Yeah, not that many. It didn't.
There is a gorgeous hardcover, if you can find it, that collects all of that series. The Tim's issue and everybody else's.
Darwin's is spectacular.
Yeah. If you find it and got the money for
It's better to get the original. Actually, there is it's all collected, but you can get the original ones. You can pick and choose, because the idea, it's a different artist who does all the art for 48 pages, no ads. And then most of the people did their own writing. I didn't. So it's just one person's work, and it's pretty great.
That's a book I kind of
But if
wish
you're not
they'd
into
bring back
Richard
that
Corbin,
format.
but you are interested in somebody else, in me, then just get the individual ones.
Is there somebody in a costume back there? I see a gloved hand up on the right side. Oh, there's two gloved hands up, but I'm going to go with the one that's a little further back. I'll get you next. Yep, you. There we go. Oh, that's a Harley Quinn.
How do you maintain the pleasure and art of work?
Well, I mean, I try to enjoy everything. The stuff I'm doing to make money, I still want to enjoy it, and I still try to put my own, personal spin on it.
It looks like you do.
Yeah.
I mean, you certainly do. I don't think you're capable of doing something that isn't instantly recognizably you.
Right.
And it's always not what you would expect.
Yeah.
Especially if you're given. I mean, one of the cool things about the variant covers, and they finally kind of figured it out, it seems to me, is that they shouldn't have anything to do with what's inside. They should be hiring people and let them run with it. So I think,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a perfect gig for you.
Yeah, and I think that the problem when you are making artwork for money is that you might think I always think that I'm right, and I have the perfect composition, the design and everything for this cover, but then you have to hand it over to other people, and they have the power to say, you know, I like the cover, Andrew, but can you add this, or can you take that out, and can you do this? And, you know, hey, they're the boss, and they're the ones, you know, write your paycheck. And it's hard, though, sometimes, because you feel like, man, what I had was, to me, in my own mind, so perfect, and now I have to detract from that, you know, to make other people happy. And but when you're doing your own book, whether you're self-publishing or you got to create your own book and you make your own rules, that for me is a lot more satisfying. But again, you need that balance, because you know your create your own thing might not be that well known, or you're trying to build an audience. Whereas if you get some jobs on, you know, Batman or Superman, you might have to make some concessions, but yet it's a big name product, and you're going to get a lot of notoriety for it. And you're going to build your fan base, so
that you can do more creator.
Exactly.
So
it's a balance there you got to achieve.
Have you worked with Chiarella?
Yeah.
As an editor?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm basically working with him
Yeah.
on the Superman covers.
Okay,
so.
great. Because I would say he's close to hands off on, and also not only that, but he's an artist himself, which doesn't necessarily mean anything, but he's really encouraging of creativity. And he's not stupid about arbitrarily saying, no, why don't we try something else, or something like that. He wants you to, I bet he loved your Superman. I've seen the first Superman. Is that the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the first one, and it's amazing. I bet he loved it.
Okay, I'm gonna get, since I promised him, the person with the gloved hand right there.
What's the worst you've ever bought a piece of artwork that got published, or as a commission?
Wow. I spilled ink once on a commission. I actually spilled ink on a double-page spread in a comic. Ooh, but it was just in the corner. It was fully penciled. And it was enough that I normally wouldn't white it out, but everything was fully penciled. And I made it work. And there was no wash also, because wash doesn't pick up, once you put the whiteout down, it doesn't pick up on it, or it lays on the surface. But it was just black and white. But yeah, when I did it in front of the guy I was doing the commission for, that was pretty good. Fortunately, it was a dark alley with Batman's shadow and a crook running through it, so it was...
What about you, Andrew? Has there been any accidents where you went, oh my God, and then quickly recovered?
I think for me with painting, and you're trying some experiments with different materials and techniques, I've definitely had many cases where, you know, it went wrong, and it doesn't necessarily destroy the piece, but it just means that you have to go in sort of a different direction, and it just takes more time, more effort, more work. So that kind of thing happens, especially when you go in and try new things and don't have a clear plan. But then also, if you don't try new things, then you're not going to learn and you're not going to grow. So,
Right.
But I think like Tim also, with just like black and white pieces, I've had the occasional, you know, spillage of ink or a smear. Especially, you know, I do that a lot where I've like inked something and while it's still wet, you know, I've like started inking another area and my hand is like smudging.
Yep.
And you kind of don't realize it until you pull it off. And
first you see your hand, it's like really dirty and black and has ink all over it. Then you look at the page, you're like,
Or you lift your hand.
yeah.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. And I have an odd propensity of looking at pages that people have me sign that I've done, and there's a little food smear in the corner of the paper, not on the art, but still on the margins. Ketchup, more hot dogs. I never said eat hot dogs.
Okay, let's go with. I've done that side for a bit now. Gentleman with the beard in the second row there.
You ever started a private degree, thought yourself that you bit off more than you can chew, and by the time you realize
Ooh, that is an interesting one. Did you both catch that, or?
Yeah. When I started the Fifth Beatle, I was feeling like
Whoa.
I bit off more than I could chew.
Barely. Man, that's...
Because that was really rough to get through, and I actually got fired like maybe 2 or 3 times during the process of trying to get that book done, which took about 4 years. In the beginning, we were hoping to get it done in 1 year, so I was a little off the mark. But sometimes if you just don't quit, even though you have troubles and peaks and valleys, if you just keep going, things seem to work out.
What was the question?
Has there been a piece of work that you went into and thought you kind of bit off more than you could chew, and then at the end of it, it turned out really well, or you were quite proud of the results?
Well, Captain America was more than I could chew. I'm not sure how proud I am of the results. There was just a lot of things going on, and World War II just beat me up. I couldn't. Took me a long time to relax with it, kind of, and release from reality. I kept running into people like Tony Harris or Adam Hughes who were just, oh man, I'd kill for that. And they had a collection of World War II memorabilia that, would fill a house. And that's what they would love to do. And I said, well, I like research. I'm going to look into doing as much as I can. And it was just, I found it impossible. I mean, for one thing, the people who really know this shit. And from month to month, the Allies and the Axis were changing one rifle to the next, and emblems on whatever, and so I finally sort of went with the sort of Kirby Steranko idea. But that was not until the last issue, which I ended up doing really pretty fast, and was one of the ones that I ended up really happy with. It's just that there are a lot of the other ones in between where it felt like I had bitten off more. A lot of crowd scenes, a lot of tanks and stuff I don't really like to do.
Just to warn both of you gentlemen, you've got about 10 minutes left.
No problem.
I'm sorry for the non-updates, but we started a little late, so I wanted to make sure the sketches are done, and instead of interrupting them too much.
Yeah, that's the problem with historical pieces, is that people don't realize it's not just the time you spend drawing; it's all this time you got to spend finding the reference
Or giving it up. Giving up on that part of it, like Kirby did. And Kirby was in the war, for crying out loud, but when he started doing Sergeant Fury, he was just going to do what he wanted to do, sort of. And he couldn't put on a shirt without it ripping, Fury, right? And it was just a thing. And I thought Jeff was going to play that up, even in the middle of the winter where the story takes place. Sorry, I just can't keep a shirt on. And I really do enjoy that part of it. That's the sad part about it for me. I wanted to really throw myself into that part.
I'll go with you in the front row there.
How often do you let fans criticism affect how you're drawing your covers and stuff like that?
I don't get much. Well, I don't. I don't go on message boards or anything like that, so I don't. It's pretty hard for people to come up to your face and say, "You fucked that up." I paid $5 for that comment.
Believe it or not, I've actually seen that, and it was sad
Well, I
on
believe
the
it.
person's part.
I haven't had it.
For me, I think the same as Tim. There really is no reason to go to the message boards and, like, try to read all the messages from the haters and the trolls. I'd rather just listen to, like, artists and peers and people that I
Right.
respect, and if I ask them for their honest opinion, I hope they give it to me, and then, if I made a mistake, hope they point it out and I learn from it. And because sometimes there's things that you get so close to the art that you're not noticing this really bad tangent, or
Right.
you made like a big
Yeah, that's
error in anatomy.
You're right. Which is something that isn't talked about much. You really do get close to the art, and your eye begins to fool you into thinking this is looking good when it isn't. You've made a mistake, and you just can't see it because you're so close to it. And it's always best to leave a day or two before you start inking. I don't know if you do that, Andrew. But it's what I try to do. Try to have enough time to do that, to get away from it, and then come back to it, and you'll see things you hadn't seen before. And it also depends on how you're using the term criticism. If people are just going to be snarky, it's one thing. But if people really have something to say, that's a different thing. I don't mind it if it's. People say constructive, but it doesn't. If it's just thoughtful, I'm fine with that. It is someone's opinion, so you can take it or leave it, but it also might help, or it's just interesting and fun to hear about it.
I think somebody told me best, nothing good comes out of the comment section. Or very, very rarely on the internet.
Facebook can be better for me.
Yeah.
I don't run into people that I've just felt were jerks. People do, I know, but
Gentleman in the white on the right hand side there.
Given that you mentioned Darwin, are there other artists that you're fans of or that you learn from?
sure.
Well, I think most of us are learning from every artist that we really admire. We're learning, and we're also learning from every artist that we don't care for. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of find things that are really awful and don't work, and you're like, okay, I'm definitely not doing that in my work. And then all the
Especially if you can see what they were trying to do, and that's easy not to. Like, if somebody's style is so different, sometimes you really like it and sometimes you don't. But if they're really going for something that just doesn't interest you at all, that's different. But sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no.
that's a good point.
Yeah. And I've tried to draw, like, there's certain people I admire that I've tried to draw like or emulate for a while, which is usually what you do when you're first beginning, and not so much after that. And couldn't come close to. Like Adams or somebody else I always usually try. Barry Smith. Things like that.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and then we'll show off the finished artwork, and then I'll give it away to two of you lucky people. I don't see anybody jumping. Oh, okay, that guy did. Yeah, you got the joke.
Was there ever a job that you really hated that you had to do it, but you had to do it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Like in art, well, I don't mean like a minimum wage job when you're a design. Like as an artist.
That you are comfortable about talking about without getting sued.
I did a short story in the Halo graphic novel, and I did not enjoy drawing the Halo costume at all.
Is that the first one that Marvel put out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
You know, maybe if you did it once from a cool illustration,
Right.
but like drawing that thing from every different angle, that the costume, yeah, that was not fun.
It's a bad design. That's true.
I have a feeling that's part of the reason why a majority of that book is pinups as opposed to actual stories. You know what? We got time for one more. So I took from there, so I'll take from the other side. Okay, you've already had a question. You right very front row.
If you could redesign a character costume, who would you choose and what would you change?
Ooh. I've done a fair amount of it, but no one comes to mind directly. Dr. Doom, maybe, a little bit, although I'm a giant Dr. Doom fan, so I wouldn't change too much, but I don't think it, I wouldn't want to make it what Adi Granov does, but you shouldn't try to make it too Kirby as well. So I don't know what I would do necessarily.
Yeah, I can't think of anything specific, but I think when I see designs that are just too convoluted, too many little details, especially ones that, like for instance, the Superman costume, the one that had all the the little intricate line work on his suit, which also would line up with like his shoulder muscles. You know what I mean? So it gets really, I think it's really confusing for everybody involved if you're penciling it and then the inker has to ink that. Is that a design in the costume? Is that defining his shoulder muscle? And then the same thing with the colorist, you know, so...
A lot of phone calls in between to talk out what you meant by what and things like that.
Yes, and sometimes these designs, you know, they might have been fun in the moment when the artist is, you know, adding extra details, but, you know,
Right.
from page to page and panel to panel, certain things just to me just don't work and don't make any sense, and they create bad tangents, they're confusing, and so when I see designs like that, I just want to immediately just start simplifying, get rid of things.
Yeah.
But
You want to explain what a tangent is? Does everybody know what a tangent is? No.
I'm not sure in terms of art, so... If
The simplest way is if it lines up, if one, especially on a different plane, like if the edge of this table lined up with the edge of my, just because the angle of where you were, or where you set the camera in the picture, it lines up with something directly on a different plane. But even if you were taking it directly from a photograph or from life, all you got to do is change it, because it's distracting if you don't do that.
I'm not going to mention names, but I once did a panel where an artist who created a redesign of a costume was on with the guy who had to draw it on a monthly basis. and I believe the exact terms, without using all the swears, were, well, you don't have to draw the damn thing 30 pages.
Right. Spider-Man is the most famous costume that way. That really works. It's a great costume, but everybody complains about it.
Is the person with the raffle box here? Oh, where'd they leave it? Oh, there it is. I'm new at this one. I usually do the talking panels. Finished or close to it? I'm sorry, Mr.
Close,
Sale. I'll
very
be
close.
good.
Very close, very close.
Look, this has to be perfect, right?
I just want to show off to the people that were going to be giving it away before I throw it out, and disappoint everybody else in the room who's not getting it.
I am close.
No worries. Okay, since Mr. Sale is close, I'll take one more question. Okay, you seem enthusiastic. Make it a good one, though, because you might be the last question here, and nobody wants to make fun of you.
This is a question for Tim. What influenced your decision to transition from stark black and whites that we saw in Dark Victory and Long Halloween to more of the ink washes we saw in the Marvel Color Series?
I didn't know it was going to take off the way it did. But it was, the first of the color books was Daredevil Yellow, and I thought New York City would look best with that kind of look. And then everybody sort of wanted me to do things with that. And I actually did it with the Hulk, because I did it when the first Ang Lee movie was coming out, and I only ink washed the figure of the Hulk, and it was sort of an homage to, he was going to be CGI in the movie and that kind of thing. But then I started doing it at conventions, and I kind of got typed into it, which is all right. But I miss the stark black and white. I do. Two minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. I can stall for 2 minutes. We'll go. Okay. We'll go with one more question. I've said that like 5 times now. You and the red there.
Is there a particular writer that you'd like to work with one day on comics?
So not somebody they've already worked with?
Not somebody they work with, someone that they'd like to.
Okay, that's an interesting question. Is there a writer you would like to work with if you so got the chance?
I've talked to him about it, but we just haven't had the time yet. But I'd like to work with Rick Remender.
Oh, that's a good one.
I can't think of anybody offhand. I'm maybe oddly, but certainly particularly picky about favorite ways that I like to work, and got spoiled by Jeff meeting so many of them. And I know that I wouldn't work very well with a writer who had a heavy hand, and a lot of writers do. And so a lot of panels on a page and a lot of dialogue and not much room for the art to show through is just not going to make me very happy. And a lot of those writers also don't end up working different ways with different artists. They just write the way they write. A short story about it. Not that many people knew Solo, but Brian Azzarello wrote me a noir story in Solo, and Chiarello, who was the editor, suggested Azzarello for me. I'd never worked with him before, and I said, a guy and a gal, guns, blood, and romance. 3 panels on a page. Now I'll vary the 3 panels, but think of that as opposed to 5 or 6, which is a standard grid that many people also break up into more than that. But if you start with 3, then you break it to 5. It has a bigger feel, open feel. He said I couldn't possibly tell a story that way. So, you know, like 8 pages. And they called me back in a couple of days, got an idea. And he just needed to think about it. It was not what he was used to, and I knew that most people wouldn't. It's not what, and if you're writing a series, I mean, the reason Darwin did New Frontier, 3 panels on a page, was that he knew he was doing 48 pages. I mean, that story could have been told in a lot fewer pages, but it looked so damn great because it was that big and open. And
Okay. So just to wrap things up here, for one of you lucky people. I really should have gotten a ticket before I came in. And
got a real ad in this.
oh, 2 of you are so lucky.
Thank you to Andrew for picking Two-Face.
Okay, so